Yes, boy!
Yes, boy!
Yes, boy!
Yes, boy!
Yes, boy!
Yes, boy!
Yo, what's poppin'? All my peeps, it is I, your host, the most Renaissance man who always thinks he can, and champion of the peeps, Patty Pitts, back once again in the yard of streams for another edition of the Smackdown breakdown part of Pitts and Sara's wrestling show, where we take no nights off. All right, and you can't break down Smackdown without the best of the West. You can't forget about, holy shit, Sara Marshall. What's poppin', girl?
Hey, yo.
I think it's because people's videos autoplay.
What do you mean?
By the way,
Autoplay.
you're talking about the users. What you know when you scroll your timeline on
sorry.
you know when you scroll your timeline on Twitter and a video someone posts a video and it just autoplays.
Yeah.
That's what I think it is.
Sorry, but we have a lot of peeps in the chat. I was like, I'm very excited, very happy.
Because you can see they're all from my Twitter.
They are.
So it's all gonna go down because they're gonna check out.
Yeah, I mean, we got all those views. Oh, yeah, there you go. But we still have our loyal peeps in here. We got David, what's poppin', Bernard. Yeah, the pack, go, baby. And I mean, David, yeah, I'm also on that train too. And we got playoff football on, but we also have to talk about Smackdown from Friday night. All right, because I'm not gonna lie, hell of a show in certain regards. Actually, fuck it. I thought it was a really good show. What'd you think, Sara?
I thought it was okay. But the thing is, though, is like I don't really ever have like a genuine reaction to SmackDown because I always see what happens before I watch. So it's like I can't really have a genuine reaction to when I finally do watch because I'm like, I already know. Like, I don't know every teeny tiny detail necessarily, but it's like I know who had a match and maybe I know like the big things that might have happened. So to me, I was like, I was trying to rush and watch it yesterday. And so that was another thing where it's like I didn't necessarily like get to sit and enjoy it because I was like, oh crap, I need to get this done and I need to get the notes done. So I was like, it's okay.
Yeah, I fell asleep like per usual, but watched it and it was just like, even though I was spoiled a little bit, watching it the first time, falling asleep, waking up, seeing the spoilers, and then going back and watching the whole thing. I still, when I say I loved it, it's because it feels like it's a show that's moving forward. I feel like for so long and in the old era, it just felt like it was a show every week and they just were focused on the show. They weren't focused on 2-3 weeks, even a couple months down the line with their storytelling. And now it seems like excuse me, they're really throwing in some details to further progress some stories, and we're going to get into them. And I like that element of it, that we're finally getting substance. That's not just, all right, we're going to put on this show, and if the fans, it's what we want. Like, I don't know. It's just so refreshing to see.
I still advocate for SmackDown to be a 3-hour show.
I think at some point you need to do it. Not right now, but
like, are we really supposed to believe that when they bring up like Carmelo full-time, Trick full-time, Braun Breaker full-time, Baron Corbin when he comes back, Ilya Dragunov, like Cora, Tiffany, like, are we supposed to believe that all of them are going to be able to get TV time on a 2-hour show? Like, no.
That is true.
It might get to a point where they copy AEW and have 3 flagship shows on top of NXT, because it might get to a point where the roster is way overloaded and you can't fit it into only 2 shows a week. And
there's a lot of people in NXT right now that I believe are not Raw ready, but they could be jumping back and forth like Melo's doing with NXT.
Melo could be on Raw though. But
yeah, Melo could be on Raw. There's a select few that are just totally main roster ready. But I mean, for instance, Dragon Lee, I mean,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
could
yeah.
bounce back
Well,
and
he
forth.
should be on SmackDown,
He should
but
be on SmackDown.
they said he
I like
was.
Briggs. I like the country boys with Fallon Henley. I
Mm-mm.
think they could make appearances, like not like appearances on SmackDown to tease them. Like you need to do stuff like that before you get them fully. I like
I
what they've been doing there with Triple H.
I only
So,
care about Dragunov, so
oh, I mean, you could put Ilya Dragunov on Raw right now, and
I'm
I
obsessed.
honestly think you should.
I'm obsessed with everything about him. Yeah. But is that surprising? I feel like he's very on brand. It would be like
Oh, he's
bad.
on brand for you. He's just not hairy.
Well, I'm not saying well, no, he is kind of hot, but I just mean in general, like he's like European, you know,
Oh yeah, he's your European boys.
and yeah. So anyway, that's all I meant. Like he's European and
Sarah likes
have
your.
very similar wrestling style to the ones that I like the most. So we also have Vinny in the house
What's
and
poppin'?
I'm down. I hope
That's him down. He's been or she. I don't know what that account is, but they've been
yes.
in
I know.
a
I was like, I
couple of
feel
shows.
bad. It's not like a name, but
I know.
fine. You don't have to
That's
tell
fine.
us your name.
I
We'll
don't
call you
care.
SM Down.
We'll call you whatever you want. We're just happy you're here.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
all right.
Anyway, okay. Should we just jump in? Sorry, I was looking at a tweet.
I'm just ready to jump in.
All right. So the Bloodline, they kick off SmackDown by wreaking havoc, okay, because it's the Bloodline. I guess we're getting
It's
back
their
to
show
that.
apparently.
Yeah. And Paul Heyman gets in the ring and is just like, "Hey guys, like don't be mad at us. This is not our fault. This is Nick Aldis's fault." And I'm sorry, Nick Aldis? Boy, I'm just getting excited because like first of all, he's a wrestler, so it's like he looks like a wrestler. You know, he's
He
like
looks
big,
like a
he's
wrestler.
jacked, like he's good looking. Another one who is not American, so right up my alley. But like I'm just really excited. First of all, I'm excited that they're setting the groundwork for and they're continuing with this feud of Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman, the Bloodline with Nick Aldis because you know, we've been very complimentary of how the general managers have been handled so far because we were saying the general managers in the past have been too involved with the stuff and being biased and whatever. And I feel like this is the only scenario that I think it's appropriate. And you know, and that's something that even Nick says when he gets when he grabs the mic away from Paul and he says, "Don't mistake this for being in a conversation between equals because it's not." Yes. And I was like, what a king. Like you're just setting him straight immediately. And like I said, it's appropriate in this scenario.
It's appropriate. And then we finally have an authority figure to go after and put down the Bloodline, who for a while it's been their show. Even Adam Pearce was not an authority figure with the Bloodline.
Right.
You know, you didn't have that guy to go against and say, you know, you can't be doing this type of stuff just because you're the champion. It's not your show, it's my show. And that was the next step that this Bloodline story needed, was an authoritative figure to clash against. And it's a nice symbolism for the decline. And that's where I think we're at right now. I forget what pay-per-view it was when they said that Paul Heyman said that the Bloodline storyline's in the bottom of the third. We're heading into the seventh. You know what I mean? Like I think the Royal Rumble is, you know, we're entering the seventh inning.
I mean, yeah.
Like it just needs and once you get into the third half or the third part of a 3-part story, in my eyes, you need to have someone to take them down. And Aldis is the perfect guy because he can also, if need be, I could see an Aldis Roman Reigns feud at some point, you know, maybe after Cody takes a title, you know, and he's like, you did this to me and all this. And I mean, he looks like he's in pretty good shape to at least take a bump or two. If Stone Cold can get back in the ring.
Well,
saying.
Let's not compare. Like, there's no.
I'm throwing. I know.
Okay, I'm like, he's not 55 years old.
No, I know.
But
Yeah,
I do
I
think,
know what I'm doing.
yeah, I do think that this was the time to do this because it was getting to a point where it was exhausting, that we were supposed to believe they had some sort of control over the shows, even like Adam Pearce, and yet the Bloodline were doing whatever, whenever, to whomever they wanted, and it just felt like no one cared. And so
Mhm.
then it was like, okay, getting to a point now where it's like, yeah, no, there is an authority figure here, and they do have power to shut this down. And it feels like you said, like, this to me feels we're getting close to the end, which is unfortunate, but I feel that Roman kind of set the end up when he decided to take months off at a time, because he completely derailed this storyline at its peak. And so it's like, there's really I don't think that you can get back to that point where we were a year ago, where it was the hottest story in wrestling. I don't think you can get back there. So it should be, this is the last leg from here to Mania. And then we can figure out what happens after that, assuming that Cody wins or whatever. But and Roman can still get back to being like at the top of the company in a hot storyline. I mean, but yeah, I think that this is like a good way to have that in there, because someone needs to step in and be like, no, this is not right what you're doing. And so I like that Nick's doing it, and that Nick is someone who could step up to Roman and nobody would really question it, the same way that if it was like Adam Pearce. Like, no disrespect to Adam Pearce, he was a wrestler, but he ain't big and jacked and like,
No, he's not.
known
No.
in wrestling world the way all this is. So if he were to step up to Roman Reigns, there wouldn't be people being like, he's just a GM. It's like, no,
No,
he's not.
this is
He's very
the
accomplished.
he's the longest reigning NWA champion in the modern era.
Yeah.
He had a hell of a run with what was he, Magnus in Impact?
Yeah, something like that. Something
Magnus
ridiculous.
Magnum. He was he was with Dixie Carter a little bit and whatnot. Like, this man can ball. Okay, that's the point of this,
Yeah.
is that he can
Yeah.
ball and he
Yeah.
can put on a hell of a feud. So I'm here for it. I'm ready for it.
By the way, this is Jay. He let us know that his name is Jay. So
And
we'll
it's a
try to remember.
Smackdown
J.
hotel.
Yes.
I love
So
that.
he says, are you saying the Bloodline will break up as a faction? Yes, they're going to break up. I 100% believe that they
It's
will.
gonna be like a breakup, but like they're still the Bloodline because it's Samoan, you know what I mean? But they're gonna be broken up as a faction on television.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like, I believed that we were going to see Solo dethrone Roman, but if we're looking at what seems more likely, it seems like it's going to be Cody. But I really wouldn't be surprised if we do see in some way Solo become like the new tribal chief or something. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that were a thing. Like, maybe he takes over and they kick out Roman or something. I don't know. I do think that we're nearing the end, and I think that it's because like the storyline has gotten to a point where there's not really a whole lot that you can do anymore, like, other than Roman losing the title and then losing his family around him. Like, I feel like that's the only thing that seems interesting at this point, especially since Jay is off on Raw. So it's like there's only so much you can do. But anyway, getting back. So Nick said, like I said, that this is a conversation that is not between equals. He said that they can't keep ruining the main events, that they just keep disrupting every main event every single week, that this ends at the Royal Rumble, and that they're not going to be able to ruin tonight's main event because they're in the main event and they will be taking on Randy Orton, LA Knight, and AJ Styles, and they will need to find themselves, well, it's going to be Solo, Jimmy, and Roman, and then Paul gets all upset because he's like, just as well as I do that Roman isn't here. So then he's like, okay, well, you're going to have to go find a third man, which, it ensues for the rest of the show. Which I think I have it sporadically through here, like as it was through the show. So We'll address all of them. But we first see that Paul Heyman speaks to Jimmy and Solo backstage, and Jimmy is very concerned because he's like, nobody's going to want to be our partner. And I am very worried.
I am worried. Solo's worried.
He says, Paul says people in the locker room have been begging him to be in the bloodline, so he is not concerned, and he is determined to find them a tag team partner before the main event. And as Pat already said, Solo said he is never worried. So
never worried.
Then we'll have to see how it pans out. But that was the start of the show, and the first match was the next match. But we first see a Santos Escobar vignette where he was kind of introducing, I guess, Humberto and Angel, which seems like they've dropped their last names. So I guess it's just Angel and Humberto now. But I thought this vignette was A+. Like, I am so bummed in a way that it took them so long to bring Santos back to being a heel, because he was a heel in NXT. They brought him up, tried to make him into a heel, but obviously it just didn't translate. Legado del Fantasma did not translate from NXT to SmackDown. So that's why they had him join the LWO. But this vignette was great. He says that there is a natural order and there is a code. He says the weak are consumed by the strong, so stay out of their way. And he says it's not because of fear, but stay clear out of their way because they pity you, basically. He's continuing his beef with Carlito and Ray. And to me, I'm just like, this is such a cooler group than the LWO.
Now. There's more legitimacy behind them. They feel like a threat. They feel like an actual threat as a faction, not just the fun-loving group that's going to bounce around and be like, Viva la raza! It's like, yeah, we're flying 20 feet in the air. It's like, no, we're going to beat your ass and take names in the process.
And they all just have the look of a heel. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, there's just a thing, like, you know, there's actors in Hollywood where you almost never see them play good guys, like Jason Statham. Like, he's never a good guy because he can't, because it's like no one would believe you being in like like romantic comedy. You know what I mean? It's like, no, he has to be like the assassin, whatever. Like, it just doesn't work. So I feel like, not that Santos can't be a good guy. Obviously, we just saw him be fine in the LWO, but it's just like, the way he carries himself, the way he presents himself, the way he's just like so naturally like comes off so arrogant. Same thing with Angel specifically. It's like, I was excited. About this.
No, it's more like they are a threatening faction, and you're maximizing the most out of Santos when you turn him heel. And Garza and Humberto, you were already doing that with them at NXT, with going back to their roots of, you know, what their family legacy is and whatnot, and you bring the Legado World Order, is what they said, into the fold. And like, this is the type of dominant heel faction that you need to have. And it's like, if you listened to Santos on commentary, I mean, jumping ahead a little bit, but if you listen to him on commentary, like what he says, how he's saying it, it doesn't feel like he's forced to be saying it because he's a heel. It just feels natural, and that's what you want out of this right now.
It is a reminder to me too how we need to have heels like this, but on their own. It feels like Triple H loves him a heel faction. Because there are so many, I mean, there's just two that were just introduced on this week's SmackDown. So it's like, but I want to see this type of effort put behind somebody on their own. Like, like I'm not saying that, you know, Karrion Kross and Santos didn't deserve to be in these factions or have them, you know, be their faction. I love both of them, and I think that they have really good direction. But it would have been kind of cool too if we could see like Santos do this on his own. You know, like. Not that he necessarily had to, but it's like, can we have something where a guy is put in a position that's this good and have this sort of direction, but like on his own, and it's not that he has like 5 guys with him too? Because it's like, you know, I want to see more of that, but that's just because also I'm like a fan of the heels, so it's like I want to see that. But anyway, so we get into the match, which was Angel and Humberto versus the LWO. I was happy that we actually got to see a little bit more from Joaquin and Cruz because, you know, I feel like they're kind of the forgotten ones of the LWO. It was always like Ray, Zelina, and Santos. Yeah. So it was nice that they were actually able to have these moments, especially at the beginning of the match where they were, you know, suicide diving and doing all sorts of cool stuff and whatever.
Cool
I was
spot.
glad that we could see that because I think up until now they felt very boring and kind of limited. So, like you already said, Santos was good on commentary. He's such a good heel. Him laughing at the LWO guys getting beaten, that was that was
hilarious.
special. We also see, so obviously Angel and Humberto win due to Carlito sneak attacking Santos. So there was that distraction there. And I mean, you know, Carlito needs to be doing something, and I really think that they need to be involving him a little bit more because they keep like teasing these random things that he's gonna do, and then he's like off TV for 3 weeks, and then he comes back, and you're like, oh yeah, he was doing this, and then it's like he's doing it again, and then he's gone again, and I'm like, what is happening? So I hope that they actually like fully immerse him into this and let us see it pan out.
Agreed. I need to see Carlito more on my TV. I need to see him in a match and like some sort of substance feud. Like, yeah, it's great right now that he has the, you know, back and forth with Santos, and I would like not a payoff, but at least a match between the two right now, you know.
Well, and I'm curious because then there were reports that Ray wants to try and be back for the Rumble. And I'm like, if that, I know. So I don't know if it's possible. I don't know. I saw he said he wants to be back for the Rumble. So
that's a quick turnaround.
I know. So I don't know if that's possible, but I almost feel like that would be the best case scenario for Santos right now because I feel like he needs to be going up against a guy of the caliber of Rey Mysterio in order to kind of be like more solidified as this new role. So whenever Ray can come back, I think that's great. I don't want him to rush back because I think that Santos is doing just fine, but that is a little exciting if he is able to come back a lot sooner than anticipated.
It would be exciting. And as we know and have seen be executed to perfection, the best way to get nuclear heat on yourself is by going after Rey Mysterio. So keep at
him. You want his leg to be amputated?
I don't want you to come back. I want your leg amputated. I hope the surgery doesn't go well. Jesus, man.
I hope you get an infection that makes them need to chop off your leg. That's how much I hate you.
It's like, Jesus, man.
It's like, wow, okay. Then we moved on to Logan Paul, who of course is not there because why would he be there? He wants to say it's because they were in Nebraska. I want to say it's because he thinks he's Roman Reigns and can work part-time, but who am I? So he cuts like a little promo video type of thing, whatever, which is kind of weird. And I don't know. And it's talking about Kevin Owens because Kevin Owens punched him in the face last week and left him with a fake black eye, using his hand that was broken. So he was able to use the cast, which is not even a cast. It's just like a brace that you can buy at CVS, but you know, I mean, details don't matter in wrestling. So he just goes off and says that Kevin is a cheater, pumpkin eater, which I was like, okay. No, that wasn't funny.
What? You didn't find it funny?
He's nearly a 30-year-old man, and he just said cheater, pumpkin eater.
It's hilarious.
No, it's not funny. I didn't laugh.
Because it's stupid how it's funny how stupid it is. Like that's what he's using in his promos. I don't know. I was a fan of it.
Whatever.
Okay.
So he threatens to sue Kevin over the punch.
Rude.
Yeah, which I was just like, oh my God, this is so dumb. And Kevin does end up responding later in the show, and he says that the cast is actually not an unfair advantage because he has a cast for a reason. He has a broken hand. So that is more so an advantage to Logan, who doesn't have a broken hand, but he does invite him to SmackDown next week to be on the Kevin Owens show. And we find out later that Logan is being forced to be there. So we will see them be face to face a week before the Royal Rumble. So, you know, I got my issues with Logan Paul. I don't need to air them out again, but I do like that because of the way that they decided to go with the United States Championship tourney. I like that there's actually substance to who he's facing, and that it's not just like all of a sudden Logan just hates the guy because he's the number one contender. I like that there's a history between Logan and Kevin, so it makes me actually more interested in this match than I think I would normally be, or if it were somebody else that was the number one contender to face him at the Rumble.
Yeah, I like this too because it's Logan Paul, the outsider, who's the champion, and you have a guy like Kevin Owens who is, I would say Mr. Wrestling in this feud. I mean, the dude's been through it all. He's done everything that you need to do to prove yourself in this industry, and he's going after Logan Paul right now for the, and I can already see where this KO show segment's going to go is that, you haven't put in the hours and you haven't done this, that, or the other. And, it's going to go down that route, which I love because you need to put Logan Paul in that sort of feud. You're right. He hasn't done, the double digit hour drives from, random state to random state. He hasn't, sacrificed his body through the wrestling schools and all that, the indies.
Been champion for like 2 months and it's not defended it one time.
And that's the other thing. And he hasn't defended the championship like a champion should, like when Kevin Owens has a champ. There's a lot of stuff there that you need a guy like KO to fit that role in his first feud. There isn't a better person for his first feud. It would be a legitimate win, in my opinion, for Logan Paul to go over him and head into WrestleMania, and that'd be like a statement win. And to be honest, I think this match has a lot of potential to be a sleeper match on the Royal Rumble card.
I would be surprised if people would sleep on this though, because I feel like every single one of Logan's matches gets hyped. Like everyone is like, oh, this is going to be a banger. And it's like, because they know how Logan is just like naturally good. And I feel like Kevin too, though. Like
he's also naturally gifted.
Yes. That's what I mean.
It's
so like I would never, I would be shocked for people to be actually like, I mean, I get it. I don't like Logan Paul. So it's not like I'm like, yay, this is the one I'm looking forward to the most. But I mean, I would know that it would be a good match, so it'd be kind of surprising to me if anyone else thought otherwise. But
well, Vinny, also a Canadian going to win the US title. What is Rey Mysterio?
Well,
what is
also,
like what is Great Wall? Like I don't
was Eddie Guerrero US champ? Like
Eddie Guerrero was US champion. Matt Hardy was European champion. I mean,
it's like what doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter at all. It's just a secondary title. Kayfabe, it doesn't matter. Okay. Kayfabe has to like low-key still exist. Okay.
He is champion of the United States. Okay.
Exactly. Like I think because we live in such this social media era where the realness and fakeness, or I don't like to use the word fake, but like television media or whatever you want to call it, of wrestling, people forget that kayfabe has to still exist in your mind to actually enjoy the product, and if you don't have that, then you're going to be very upset with yourself. So kayfabe never dies. It's just there and not as prevalent.
You can get some more comments if you'd like before we move on.
Okay, cool. We got Jay with should Logan play?
No,
Logan should play the jealousy.
Should.
There we go. I'm reading it. Logan should play the jealousy angle because he just you're right. I never did any of that, and you worked to fight me. So what does that say about you? I agree. That's a great heel champion mentality to be like, yeah, I didn't have to do it. So what does that mean about me? What does that say about me that I'm this gifted messiah to wrestling? Like, go on that, go over the top.
He can't say messiah.
I'm saying messiah.
I'm just saying he can't.
Savior.
That's Seth Rollins.
Seth's the Monday Night Messiah. He could be the Friday Night Messiah.
No.
I have not been in the business as long as you and better than you were pointing to your career. I agree.
You know who had really good nicknames? John Morrison.
Johnny TV. He's just Johnny everything.
The Friday Night Delight.
Oh, I don't remember that.
CrossFit Jesus.
Oh, I do
Was
remember
Seth
that though.
Rollins. That's Seth
I
Rollins.
remember.
No,
Yeah.
he had more. He also had the Monday Night Delay, I think. But yeah, there was a few. I can't remember what they all were, but the Guru of Greatness, like he had such stupid
The
ones. But oh my
Guru
God.
of Greatness is really good. I like that. Then explain Gunther being Intercontinental Champ. Isn't Intercontinental Champ like Intercontinental? It's the world.
Yeah, it's the world. It's intercontinental because of
So
continents.
continents.
Yes.
Gunther lives on a continent in this world.
And he's from another continent.
Another continent.
So he's
like
bringing them together. Don't question my king.
He's interconnecting continents. See what we do here, Sarah?
Don't
We answer
question
questions.
my king. That is my heavyweight champion of the world.
That is your heavyweight champion.
Yeah, it
your heavyweight
is.
champion.
That's my king, Daddy Gunther.
Yeah.
He's a daddy now.
He is a low-key, like, legit daddy.
He is.
Good for him.
Mhm.
All right. What's the next? The banner that we have up here.
Bianca Belair versus Bayley.
Oh, I'm excited to talk about this.
This proves our theory that Damage Control will be ousting Bayley at some point soon. Obviously, this is like the 100th time that we've seen Bianca versus Bayley, so there's not a whole lot that I should want to say about the match. It's always good. It just shows you too, I feel like, for anyone who ever, I don't know, anyone who ever forgets or people who don't realize how good Bayley actually is, because I should not have just eaten a piece of chocolate, but that's what it is.
You shouldn't have, but you wanted it. You wanted that chocolate.
I mean, it's sitting in front of me. Am I gonna say?
Yeah,
no?
I mean, dude, that's just it's teasing you.
When Bianca's in a match, I feel like a lot of people are like, Bianca, 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 and rightfully so. I get it; she's incredible, but Bayley deserves a lot of respect too. And she's always putting on banger matches with Bianca and is right there with her. Like, you're not looking like, oh, Bianca carried her, you know? And this was another example of that. So the match was good. But in the match, there was a moment where Bianca threw Bayley out and Bayley could have used some help. And Damage Control just hung around looking at her like, I don't know what you want us to do. So this put more confidence for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people, behind the pick for Bayley to win the Rumble. I need it to happen so bad, or I'm going to be so disappointed.
I think I saw something on Twitter that Bianca winning last night pretty much solidified Bianca's not winning the Rumble for sure.
Well, she doesn't need to.
She doesn't need to at all, but it further enhanced, the projection Bayley will win. And what I loved about what?
I was going to keep going too.
Oh, go.
Oh, just make sure that we cover it all. So
yeah, cover it all.
Obviously, they left it at Bianca was able to win, so it was kind of awkward for Bayley with the rest of the group, and she kind of addresses them backstage, mostly Dakota, and Dakota is kind of playing the referee, was saying like, we couldn't help you because the referee was looking right at us. Like, we believed that you were going to be able to handle yourself against Bianca like you do. And you're going to be able to handle it on your own whenever you face her again. You're going to be able to do that at the Royal Rumble. And she's trying to be very convincing, but you can tell that Bayley, it's like it's starting to click even more in her mind, because we know actions speak louder than words. And that is exactly the situation that Bayley sees herself in right now. She knows what her heart is telling her, or what her head is telling her. And her heart is trying to tell her something different, because she doesn't want to believe that the group that she put together would ever turn on her. But that is where we are. And I am just excited. I am here for it. As much as I love the group, I think Damage Control can be a good group without Bayley. And oh my gosh, that victory for Bayley in the Royal Rumble, the hopeful victory for her at WrestleMania, is just going to be so good and so necessary for her. Like, so needed. I'm very excited.
Bayley in this match solidified that she's one of my favorite horsewomen. I think, if you bias include, I think Bayley's number one of my favorite. Becky, I think, is still the best out of all of them, but Bayley's just like the most underrated, most appreciated, like, has done it all essentially. And I can't think of a time where Bayley had like a bad match or a bad, like, she's just so consistently good. And this whole damage control feud, it could be bad in the sense like the way they're doing it, or they could have done it, but with the added elements they have of the Kabuki Warriors being in damage control now because of EO, and then Dakota Kai trying to play both sides, but Dakota Kai also having a history of turning on her best friends, and
Mm-hmm.
the manipulation that she's doing with that backstage stuff. I mean, you're gonna sit here and tell me the ref saw you? No, he was looking at your knee. Like the ref
Yeah.
had your back, and you guys just stood there like nothing. Like it's little stuff like that further this, you know what I mean? Like they could have done something, or they could have like done something so minuscule or try to, but the fact they did nothing, that speaks so much more volume than
Mm-hmm.
anything. And that's the type of thing that, further down the line when we get a little bit closer to Mania, and I'm going in the mindset that Bailey already won the Rumble, and they're trying to push her to go after Rhea and go after the
Mm-hmm.
title. And they may know she won't win, and that'd be another reason to kick her out because they'll have all the gold and she won't. That's the story that I want to see, and it's finally on the way of being told. I love it. This is one of my favorite stories right now.
So basically, Jay just wants to know, why do we think that Bailey's going to win the Rumble and whatever. So we have a video on what we think is going to happen, but I'll reiterate it here.
Treat her like the female Duke the dumpster grows.
So I
That's
think that,
hilarious.
they have 2 weeks from yesterday, is it, till the Rumble? So
Yep.
we've been seeing the trickle effect of, of damage control nearing its end, at least to kicking Bailey out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that we're getting to that point where obviously they're all going to be in the Rumble except for EO and Dakota,
Mm-hmm.
clearly.
Clearly.
I do think that we could see a moment where maybe Bailey throws one of them out, and that's like the Kickstarter. I think that we do see Bailey win, because then it's going to bring in more conflicting feelings. Like the rest of the group aren't necessarily going to be happy that she won, because they wish that one of them had won instead.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's going to be the whole storyline that Pat was just talking about, where Bailey's gonna have to choose between facing Rhea at WrestleMania or facing EO. So that's gonna be this whole storyline, and then she's eventually going to pick EO because she's going to like fully understand that they're trying to turn on her and kick her out. And so I feel like Bailey is the only one who makes sense in my mind right now, because of
Oh,
how
wow.
much story they can get out of her winning. And I think that her turning face is very needed right now, because someone commented on the video that I was talking about and saying, well, you heard that she was like getting booed and that was why she had to turn heel, blah blah blah. Yeah, but now it's like it's becoming stagnant. Like there's nothing else for her to do right now.
Nothing.
So she's been a heel for like 5 years or whatever it is at this point. Like it's time to turn her back, but she's not going to be the same baby face that she used to be. Like
No,
it's going
it's
to be a
different.
completely different version of Bailey that we haven't even seen yet, because it's not going to be the side ponytail, inflatable men type of Bailey. So
Wacky
it's
label
like,
too, man.
so it's like, I think it's exciting, and I feel like this would be like one of the top stories potentially for Smackdown.
Mhm.
And I think that would set up a really, really good match for Bailey and EO at WrestleMania. Like that, I'm excited about. And it's only January.
It's only
You know?
January, and we're already like, I don't see any other person winning the Rumble, and no other person really needs to win the Rumble. Becky, you can still have her fight Rhea at WrestleMania and not have
Yeah.
her win the Rumble. Bianca doesn't need to be in the title picture at WrestleMania. Have her be in a match, but not in a title
And
match. Charlotte's gonna
Charlotte's
be
gone.
out because of
Ronda's
the
out.
injury. Ronda's long gone.
Yeah.
Ronda Rousey is long gone, and I mean everyone else that's been low key challenging for the title. You're not putting them in a title match at WrestleMania for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like Ivy Nile, no, not a
Yeah.
chance. Put her in a tag team match with Maxine Dupree, if anything. Like you got to think of it like that, and it makes no sense to the Rumble except for Bailey.
Yeah. Well, and I think, well, you know what? I don't even want to talk about the Rumble because I saw Vinny just mentioned Jade. I can't talk about it because there's like so many people that are like, this
Yeah, we
person's gonna.
can.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't do it right now. All right, moving on. So, you're welcome. You're welcome, everybody. Pete Dunne is back. I just want to say you're welcome because we've been calling him Pete Dunne for months. I don't
I
even
think I've been
know
calling
when we
him
first
Pete
started
Dunne
calling him that.
since he was. I think at least I've been calling him Pete Dunne since they gave him the name Butch.
I had still been calling him that, but then I would say Butch because it was like, it was,
You
that
gotta
was the name they
pander.
had him
You gotta
going by. But
pander.
then I think once it kind of ran its, and once it ran its course, that was when I was like, all right, he's not Butch anymore. Like, this is stupid.
Mhm.
So we see a video for Pete where he is sitting in a coffee shop and he is greeted by Tyler Bate, who was just brought up to SmackDown, and they're just talking about what has happened to Pete. Like, he's lost himself and he needs to reach back in and be who he used to be and who everyone knew him as. And he said Tyler was saying that he wants to bring back the British strong style, which I was like, man after my own heart. And he wants to team up with Pete. And he says, like I said, you need to bring back who you used to be, blah blah blah, and even alluding to like becoming a name. Like, what is that name? And that was when the video zooms in on his face and ends. Where that was where you were like, Pete Dunne is back. So I was very excited for him.
Yeah, I'm not gonna mention anything you just said. My only additional comment I'll make on this is I would have liked this to be the ending of the backstage segment, whatever you want to call it. So when they zoom in on his face, right, and then he's just thinking, he's in hard thought, and then it just cuts black. The cinema mind I have, because I have connects in Hollywood, not a big deal, champ. My thought would have been, you gotta tease the old Pete Dunne theme song. Because one,
See,
like, not like intensely, but just like little beats. Like, there was, because I was trying to hear, because I'm like, oh, did they do that? So I went back and rewound it to try to hear, but all you could hear was just the what, oh my god, catering. Thank you. You just heard the catering back noise, whatever. But I would have liked like a little bit of like a do or like a slow like
I don't.
do.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but
And
I don't
then,
think that's catering to the NXT crowd or NXT UK crowd. The SmackDown people would not know what that meant. We never really saw Pete Dunne on SmackDown. That was like, it was like a little bit when he was the champ, but like not really. We didn't really see the bruiserweight outside of NXT. So I think the alluding to, the return of Pete Dunne is probably why they did that. I don't think it's a bad idea. I just mean, like,
yeah,
we have to think about his era in NXT is definitely not the crossover of audience, like, I think it is a little bit more now, but not then.
I think now, yeah, there's a lot more fans now, I would say, that watch both NXT and SmackDown, just the way the product's going. So in that sense, yes. And years ago, probably not. But I just, that would have been the cherry on top to this tease of a return. And I'm not saying like play a song and tease it that way, but like just little like the tune,
Yeah.
like little slow beats to tease it all would have been so perfect. And that's the way that they need to be doing more stuff like that. If you're gonna do cinema-esque backstage stuff, like what you're doing, like movie scenes essentially with the NXT, now bring it up to the main roster, you gotta have a Hollywood mind. You have to have a Hollywood mind because a lot of wrestling fans are big movie people too, or big entertainment people in general. And the way, like, they want to be rewarded for watching. It's something that John Alba, a good friend of mine who does wrestling stuff, he preaches all the time about how the best wrestling promotions and the most successful ones are the best ones who reward the fans for watching. And you can even translate that over not just to wrestling, but to Marvel, the DC universe, or any sort of long running TV show where you reward the fans and audience for watching. That's where Triple H has a better mind than Vince McMahon did in that regard. And now that if you want to make your stamp on what separates you from the old era, it's little stuff like that.
I'm just excited that we're finally gonna get a serious version of him again. It's about time.
He was so brutal. He was in
And
a good way brutal.
And it's like unfortunate in a way that the only reason why it's probably happening is because Sheamus is injured or something, and that's what's kept him out. And then obviously the Brawling Brutes kind of had ran their course, and so it's like, okay, we're gonna move Ridge back down to NXT, and then that just kind of leaves Pete there by himself. But I mean, if that's what had to happen for this to happen, then I guess it is what it is. So I'm excited to see what they do. And I do think that they probably should keep him and Tyler together for a little bit before they just go full to solo single stuff for both of them.
Yeah, 1,000% agree. You need to keep them.
I did like too that he said the Pretty Deadly stuff is behind him. Like he's done with it. I was like, thank you. It's time.
Yeah, that was smart for both.
Yes,
for both. They both need to move on and do their own thing.
Yeah,
it was. Before we can move on to the next segment, though, did you see who Ridge is feuding with in NXT now?
Is it not Ilya anymore?
No, it's Gallus.
Oh. What? So he just like murdered Ilya and then just moved on?
Apparently. And now Gallus, he's doing a little thing with Gallus.
All right. Both of them? Isn't Gallus 2 guys?
Gallus is 3 guys.
3 guys? Okay. It's so weird.
I think he's gonna be probably really feuding with like Joe Coffey, but I'm kind of for it.
Why they had him do all of that with Ilya to then just move on. That's really weird.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna get like a vignette. Well, I could see them moving on, but then not addressing it and like I hurt this guy, and now Ilya, what's wrong with me? Maybe that would they should have done that. I'm interested why straight into Gallus.
I don't know.
That confused me a little bit, but
that is weird. All right, then we have the Suit Profits, aka the Pride, which to me, I was like, when I first heard this, I was like, I didn't like the name, the Pride, and I'm still kind of like iffy on it, right? I like the Suit Profits better. However, the Pride, connecting the dots. To me, I was like, okay, that reminds me of the Lion King. Okay, I was like, like the Pride, because it was like the pride of lions and whatever,
Oh.
Then it makes more sense to me.
Oh, because they're lions kind of like, and alpha. They're the alpha.
Like,
okay.
He's like Scar or like Mufasa, whatever. I mean, Mufasa. I would say, and then it's like he's got the 2 ones in the back that he's like teaching them the ways and like making them. Well, because to me, he can't. I mean, until we see a difference, because we haven't yet. They were supposed to be heels. They are now listed as baby faces internally. So, but like at first, it was like Bobby Lashley was definitely being more Scar and like trying to make them into like, carbon copies of him. So I'm like, okay, now he's like Mufasa, and it's like Simba and Simba's friend, because I don't want to say he's one of them's Nala. Like that would be weird. But
Angela
I was
Dawkins is Nala.
I don't love the name, honestly, but I mean, maybe it'll grow on me. I don't know, but I will tell you what I do love. Is the Final Testament, but we'll get there in a second. So the Suit Profits, they come out to the ring and they call out Karrion Kross, the AOP, for jumping them last week. It's Bobby. Bobby's on the mic and he says they do things face to face and they don't take a cowardice approach. So he wants to settle this ASAP and calls them out. Then we see Paul Ellering come out all by himself and he points straight up to the Tron. And oh my God, man, a video of Karrion Kross talking. Holy crap. I have been begging for this for Karrion for so long. What are you doing? Okay.
Biting my finger.
Okay, let's not. Because that was not a cute look. That was not a cute look.
I'm sorry.
I just think about like I'm gonna have to edit that out because you're like anyway, so the video that they play of Karrion, amazing, incredible, he's so good. He's so
Mhm.
good. So he says they're on a mission that they want to show everybody how corrupt they are. That and then Scarlett says that we've been breaking them on the inside, but now we want to break them on the outside. And I was like, Queen, Queen,
Yeah,
and yeah, she's just
she could read the
gorgeous.
dictionary
Yeah.
to me, and I'd find it enthralling.
It's just incredible. I'm just yeah. So that was when Carrion finally said we are the final testament, and I was like, yes. We thought it was going to be the final prayer. I love the testament. I think that's great.
Yeah.
They then show the prophets back in the ring, but no one ever shows up, and that's the end of the segment. So
What do you think about no
mean-
one? What do you think about no one jumping in and they're just being left
I
like, oh,
liked
they're just
it.
in the ring?
I liked it. I don't want to see that every single week. The one thing I did
Yeah.
like was that they were prepared. So when the lights went out, they
Yes.
weren't just like staring at the screen and acting like idiots,
Mhm.
like, oh, the ring is four-sided,
Yeah.
but like, don't sneak up on me. Like they were actually like looking around.
Yes, that's a great detail.
Yeah,
that really shows. Yeah.
And I liked how Carrion addressed everybody in the group. You know, like he was hyping up AOP. He called Paul Ellering like the most sadistic guy on the planet, basically. So
Yeah.
I felt like it kind of reintroduced everybody to who they were, because they weren't on the main roster for very long before they got taken off TV for whatever reason. So
Yeah.
I liked that, because I think some people might be like, okay, these guys are big, and then there's just like this random old dude like following them around, you know? So it's like, this was a way to kind of be like, nah, he's a scary dude, and they're not just muscly, like they're also kind of scary. So I'm excited.
Do you think the fans now forget or have no idea that Paul Ellering was the OG manager of the Road Warriors?
Probably don't know. I'm gonna guess. Okay, so I mean, their age bracket, right? Like their main audience is like 18 to 34 or something. Like that's the bracket that they try to cater to. So there's gonna be some people. I mean, I'm on the end of that age bracket.
I would say I'm on too. Yeah.
No, I'm literally the end of that age bracket.
Oh well, okay. I'm okay. Yeah,
I'm-
literally, yes. Literally, yes. I was thinking more.
So obviously some of the older ones like me are going to, you know, they're going to know that, but it also depends, because you're quite young to have lived through the 90s and watched wrestling, like, but I think that they're probably not going to know. Most of them are not going to know.
That's
And then the good thing is kind of like something that I've seen, you know, like the NWO when they'll talk about like meeting fans and like how they'll meet like little kids, and it's like because of what it used to be, the WWE network, where you can watch anything and everything in WWE history and like reintroduce kids that weren't even alive at the time to things that they did in the 80s, the 90s, whatever. And so it's possible that there are going to be some people who are like, hey, wait a second, because they watched it on the network, you know, even if they weren't watching at the time of it happening, they might actually be a little bit more aware of it than they would have, you know.
Yeah, my nephew does that with the stuff on Peacock. He's watching old Royal Rumbles, and his favorite. I was like, Miles, who's your favorite wrestler? And he's like, Jake the Snake. I'm like, wow. Were you okay?
It's so funny. It's funny though, because I see like so many people who are like, oh, Jake the Snake is my favorite or was my favorite. I'm like, it just seems like, why though? Is it because he like came out with a snake? Like what was it?
I think it's the fact that he just had this cool different gimmick that was like, he didn't need to be the like best champion, whatever. He was just Jake the Snake. He was sadistic.
Did you see that the reason why he had a snake?
No, I kind of don't know why.
He was scared of snakes.
I think I did hear this. But yeah, he was scared of snakes. He carried around a bag of snakes, dude.
Dude, I could never.
Oh, I would never. No, you couldn't. You couldn't get me.
Snakes scare me so bad. Like my brother-in-law, when my sister first met him, he had a snake. And I like hung out with them once, and he was like telling me he was going to take the snake out. I literally hid in his bathroom for 2 hours because I didn't believe that he hadn't taken him out or that he wasn't going to do something to me.
Oh yeah, snakes freak me out. They're one of the few animals that like really freak me out if I see them.
Yeah.
And I've had a fox walk by me on the golf course before. So
That's just a fox, though. He could.
in daylight.
I mean,
it was daylight. That was
I would just be like, fox are cute, though. I follow a few accounts on Instagram that have foxes.
Do you know what the fox says?
Anyway, so let's move on to. I had alluded earlier that Paul Heyman was trying to find a tag team partner, and a couple people actually approached him, and one of them was my boy.
Yes, boy! Yes, boy! Yes, boy! Yes, boy!
They let Paul know they were interested in being the tag team partners. So they offer themselves as the third member of the team for the Bloodline tonight. And they put their arm around him and everything. And we're like calling him a king and whatever. And Paul reminds them, unfortunately, that the match is actually just for one person and that it is to be against Randy Orton, LA Knight, and AJ Styles. So then my boys pretend that they are actually busy and they have something to do tonight. So they won't offer their services and be in the match anymore. And if this is the only way that we could get them on TV this week, I don't care. They looked fabulous. Their outfits were incredible, and this was hilarious. I was just like, out of all the people they could have chosen as the ones that are, that Paul had alluded to wanting to be with the Bloodline and whatever, I love that they decided that was pretty deadly.
Well, they're so good on camera. They just anytime you put them in a segment, they kill it. They're so entertaining.
Yep.
And the little quirks and little things that they say that just, like Mr. Heyman, like little acts they do are just so funny that you need to have them on. And the fact that they were like when he says it's AJ Styles, Randy Orton, LA Knight, they're like, you know what? We're good. You can't use both of us. Only one.
Never mind.
Not one of us. But we're good. Thank you. We love you. And bye. And they just like scurried off. I was like, it was perfect.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
Yeah. So I was really excited that they did that. I just hope that they get to a point where they actually start using them in storylines and stuff again. I
hope so.
Come on, don't disappoint me. So we also do see Paul approach the Pride. And he tries to recruit Bobby Lashley, but Bobby says that the only time he ever wants to be in a ring with the Bloodline is when he's facing against them, not teaming with them. And Paul is all freaked out because he has to talk to Jimmy and Solo and tell them that nobody wants to be on the team. But you know why? It's because nobody is worthy of being on your team. It's not because they don't want to be on the team. It's because they're not worthy. And we see Jay looking a little bit concerned, and but Solo was like, I'm not. And then Jimmy's just like,
no leads.
Okay, Vinny, you're the one you're the one that's off. You're the one.
I knew you were gonna like that one.
Yeah, you don't like Pretty Deadly because of their outfits and that they're flamboyant. Stop it. Plenty of wrestlers, especially in the 80s and 90s, were very flamboyant.
The Fabulous Rougeaus? Are you kidding me?
Shawn Michaels? Like,
the Rockers, yeah.
I bet Shawn Michaels is in like your top 10 favorite wrestlers ever, Vinny. But you liked the dancing and the assless traps, right?
Yeah, Vinny, here's the thing. Don't go off. Here's one thing that we got to know about our Best of the West. Don't go after Pretty Deadly, because you gonna get it. Just accept it. They're just.
You gonna catch the smoke. You won't catch that smoke.
We want the smoke.
Moving on. We get to see Carmelo Hayes.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about it.
Versus Austin Theory. They had a little thing in the back where Carmelo is talking to Nick Aldis, and then he is rudely interrupted by Austin Theory and Grayson Waller and A-Town Down Under. And that ends up setting up this match where Carmelo's like, oh, okay, I'm going to show you I am him. And this match, of course, was going to be incredible. And it was, until it had to unfortunately end prematurely due to a really sick move that Theory was going to do. But then he looked like he busted his head and threw up the X immediately. And it looks like we might have been seeing another concussion possible situation. So we
Mhm.
didn't get to see the end of this. Um, it's really okay. So it's like it's one of those things where I'm so glad that they're looking for these things, like these moments more often,
Yes.
to end these matches. But it's just like it sucks now because it's like this is again like in another one like in the last 2 weeks, and it's like
Yeah.
golly, like especially in matches that should have been like really really good. Like it's really
Yeah.
unfortunate that we didn't get to see the end of this. You know?
It is, and it's nice to see that they are taking, the concussion protocol and injuries and stuff in the ring a lot more serious,
Yeah.
and it really shows. I loved how Corey addressed it too. I think that was
Mm-hmm.
what I liked most about this injury. But um, what I liked is that they didn't shy away from it happening.
Yeah.
They were upfront and said, this is the type of risks that these superstars take. This is why we say, to not try this at home because you can get seriously injured. And it's nice. It's refreshing. It would be it's you don't usually see this stuff, so you're very new to it. But with how the current climate is with head injuries and you know really caring about you're protecting your stars to say the
Yeah.
least. um in the long run, it's better that they stop this match. I mean, there's no reason to have this go on a random Friday in Nebraska where every superstar I saw on Twitter talk about how cold it was and how frigid and
Mm-hmm.
all that. Like there's no big payoff with this. Just stop it and say it was minor. Maybe they just were bumped and they woke up a little woozy the next day, and by next week they may be back. I mean, Mello might be wrestling in the Dusty Classic
Mm-hmm.
again. I think that it shows how professional WWE is, and I think Vinny, this is the point. Thank you. I forgot the moment where we kind of saw this get elevated or whatnot. And after this Moxley match, I think WWE saw it and said, if AEW is not stopping it, we have to be better than them because we are. And this is one way you do it.
Well, and the whole I don't want to get into it, but we know the reason why a concussion protocol was brought into sports, including wrestling. We know
Mhm.
there's unfortunate circumstances that led to that, which is good, right? Like it's good that they were finally recognizing like, oh, I don't know, head injuries like
Mhm.
are actually bad.
Very
I
bad.
think it's also like I think more athletes have spoken openly about the concussions that they've endured in their careers, including wrestlers. And the one that stands out for me still is when the Miz his head bounced off the concrete floor, and when he talks about how I think he won the title that night, and he like says he doesn't remember the entire match after that everything was just like autopilot. It was just like his body was moving but he was not there like
Mentally, yeah.
and so yeah, I think that this good that they're doing that, um,
Mhm.
because we don't want these situations to end up being bad in the long run. And of course, like their health is important. And it's like it's still mind-boggling to me how like it took so long for sports to understand that head injuries are bad. Where it's like,
Yeah.
how long have you been telling your children to wear a helmet outside when they ride their bike or roller skate? Like
Yeah.
make you think like head injuries in football or anything or like wrestling like that. Well, that's fine. It's like, well, you're not wearing a helmet. Like,
Yeah. No, agreed. Yield to redundancy on all this because I couldn't agree more. So,
mhm.
um,
um, and then we get into the main event. So we get to Randy Orton, LA Knight, AJ Styles versus the Bloodline. Kicks off, of course, with Solo and Jimmy sneak attacking Randy as he is making his entrance, which then forces him to miss like 90% of the match. I also, because they put up those random facts when people come out. How has it been almost 8 years to the day that AJ Styles debuted in WWE? How has it been 8 years?
it's been 8 years.
He debuted at the Royal Rumble in 2016.
Oh my god, that was my freshman year of college.
I'm just like, when they said that, I was like, or it was on the screen. I'm sorry.
What
But I was like,
said on screen, tomato potato. It
yeah, I
was
was like,
addressed.
are you serious? Like 2016? Seriously? Like, it doesn't feel that long ago, but like the years I feel like are just flying by. But I was like, holy moly, like, because I mean that was obviously
Wow.
something that I don't think anyone ever anticipated was ever going to actually happen. I don't think anyone
No.
thought that AJ Styles would end up in WWE. Never mind be on top of
Right.
WWE and be there still 8 years later. You know,
It's wild. I didn't realize.
So the match gets, it is wild. So the match gets going. It's just a standard match, blah, blah, blah. Randy does end up coming out. Like I said, he awakes from his slumber and is energized again. So he comes out. He wins with an RKO on Jimmy. They then start battling after the match because Solo comes up and beats him up. But then we get all of this chaos ensuing, of course, because it's the main event and involves the bloodline. So that's what's going to happen. And we then see them pay a little homage to my boys, the Shield, they put Solo through the commentary desk, Shield style. And that was very exciting. So
I just want to say, did you find it a little bit ironic or dramatic irony, whatever you want to call it, that Solo was the one who said that he wasn't worried and he never worries?
Yes.
And that he's the one who got put through the table, Shield style?
In Shield style, involving Roman. And Roman was the one that usually would do that too. He was the one that was doing the power bombing.
Chef's kiss.
So good. So good. And
so good. I love it.
You know, I'm trying to love the storyline. Like I told you, I've said in a video, I don't remember when it's going to be coming out. I think it's sometime this week, but I was saying how I am a little bit concerned about LA Knight's involvement in this, but I'm excited for him. Like I'm obsessed with LA Knight. He just did another interview with Chris Van Vliet, which is amazing, of course. So I am excited for the Royal Rumble. I think it's panning out to be good. And I mean, I feel like this match specifically, this Fatal 4-Way is kind of predictable. We already know what's going to happen, but I think they've done a pretty good job at setting it up, because even though these three guys paired up and they're going to be facing each other in just a couple weeks, I liked that they did have the like tension between AJ and LA specifically, because Randy wasn't out there. But yeah, I like that they're keeping that alive and that they're teaming up because they do have a common enemy, but it doesn't go beyond that. Like they're not buddies. They're not trying to hang out. They're not like, oh, this is going to be hard to face you for the title. Like, no, they're there to do business. So, yeah, I think this is one of the more interesting matches. I feel like the build up for a Roman match in a while for me. Like I'm actually like,
yeah, this has been the best build for a championship match in quite some time, and I like how they're doing the Fatal 4-Way. You know, I don't care what happens during it or whatnot. I would like to see at least one feud come out of it between LA Knight and either Randy or AJ, preferably AJ. But this match is gonna slap, and you need a fatal for the way. Like I'm just going off vibes of how things are right now. You can't have Roman face one person at the Rumble because he screwed so many people right now. And this is how he gets his comeuppance with having to face all three of the dudes that he screwed over in some way, shape, or form. And that's how it's also going back to he thinks it's the old way of things. Nick Aldis comes in, you know, it really shows that there's a new regime on SmackDown. And it's nice to see that. And one of your point, you know, you're worried about LA Knight and his popularity a little bit. I'm not as concerned.
I'm telling you, it's a universal concern from a lot of LA Knight fans. I just had this conversation with Tim. Yeah. Tim is getting to a point where he's kind of like, his interest in wrestling is not as strong as it had been. Like that's how this is going. It's and part of it, It bums me out, but like I don't blame him, you know, because he basically only got back into watching wrestling because of LA Knight, and now it's like it's not that he's become stagnant, but I think that it's becoming like it's such a weird situation because when he was super hot, we were like, oh my God, he has to have a title. And most people were like, okay, well, he has to go for the world title. But like, that doesn't make sense because it's Roman, but like, he has to, right? And it's like, a lot of people felt it took too long to eventually give him that match. And then it happens and he loses the way that he does. And then they kind of take him out of it, but they keep him in it. And now they're fully thrusted into it again. But you know that he's not going to win at the Royal Rumble. And it's like, out of the other three in the match, like, you know that he's not at the top with them. Like, he's not that far behind, but I mean, we're talking Randy Orton, Roman Reigns, and AJ Styles. Like, LA Knight is not in that category yet.
Yeah.
Because he's not been there yet. But this is the thing, is like, you know that he's not going to win. You know that he's probably going to be the one that gets pinned. And then because he didn't have a Mania match last year, it's like, okay, so what exactly are they gonna do with him? And people have had him connected to Logan Paul, and so then it just feels like he's on this high, like he's going all the way up. He was already like what you thought was at the peak because he faced Roman one-on-one, but that wasn't it. Then he keeps going up. Then we get to the Royal Rumble, and then it's like, okay, then you're gonna have him go for the US title. It's like all the way back down because it's but I'm saying that's how a lot of people feel because you can't argue with me, and I know if you are a sane human being, you know that when you're talking about the undisputed Universal Championship, that's up here. The US title is not anywhere near it. So that's what I'm saying. It's like that's what people are saying feels like a problem because you're having him go for this big title because it's not like Kevin Owens, you know, a year ago he was going after Roman and now he's going to be having a match a year later at the same show against Logan Paul for the US title. But he has become so accomplished in his career because he's been a champion before that no one is sitting there being like, oh, this is like a down season for him, like whatever, he's going for the US title. LA Knight hasn't accrued that that you know, street cred yet. Like he doesn't have it yet because he hasn't been the champion yet. And so then you're putting him in there and it's like, it's not premature, but it almost is because you're going against Roman Reigns. So you have no chance at beating him. And then you're going to put him against a title that no one gives a crap about. Because even with Logan Paul, no one cares. And so it kind of feels like the opportunity that they had for him to become US champion was like months ago. Like that was when everyone wanted it to happen. And now it's like people would be excited if he became a champion because it's like finally he is being like acknowledged as a talent that deserves to be a champion. Yeah. But it's coming on the heels of being in multiple matches against the undisputed Universal Champion. So it's just like, it doesn't feel right.
But that like just because he loses the undisputed championship match to Roman and goes down to be the US champion, let's say, to me that actually brings up and elevates the US championship because it's on a guy Roman didn't really beat. Roman had the foot in the rope, or Jimmy put the foot in the rope and he got screwed. They didn't take him out. They just screwed him. They didn't take him out. Now you're going to put the US title on him, have him have a massive reign with that to get back over. And then you're putting legitimacy on the US title to elevate it back to, I would say, a popularity on SmackDown that the Intercontinental Championship has popularity on Raw. And then you're getting LA Knight with good feuds with, you know, maybe guys like Carmelo Hayes, Carlito, Santos Escobar, guys that need that elevated step. I don't see it being a bad thing for him to go down.
I have two arguments. One, the elevating of the US title is something that you said that Logan Paul was going to do. Why are we then passing the buck to LA Knight? Why does LA Knight have to be the one to elevate it if everyone said that it was going to be Logan Paul?
He elevated outside of WWE, bring it.
That doesn't make any sense because
from a business standpoint, it does.
But it's not a relevant title. No one gives a shit about the US title. Still, no one does. Like it doesn't matter because he's also never around. So, secondly, what was my other one? Oh, there's a reason why it kind of feels like a consolation prize. You know, it's like, okay, like Roman Reigns is the champion, and obviously you're not going to be the one to win, and you're definitely not going to look better than Randy or AJ Styles, and we're not going to have you in a feud even on Elimination Chamber for the title. You're definitely not facing Roman at Mania. So let's just kind of like, okay, let's get you this other title. Like that's kind of like what it feels like. And I think it's just because people are so invested in LA Knight, and people also know that like even if he's not anywhere near retiring, he's not a spring chicken. So it's worrisome that we're at this point where he's so over finally, and they're like recognizing him for everything that he can bring to WWE, and then you're having him go after some of the top talent in the company, and then it's like, oh well, no, it's not right now, and then you're gonna just be like, okay, let's go for this title that no one cares about, but maybe you can make people care about it. Like
But
that
isn't
doesn't.
that
I
what the
mean, you
secondary
have
title
a
is?
but for everything, but I'm just
Because
saying
I think that's
but I'm telling you,
that's all
I'm
I
not the
do.
only person that feels this way. I'm telling you that a lot of LA Knight fans feel this way. And I spoke to the leader of the
The
Yeah
leader of the
Revolution who
movement.
feels that way. And I'm assuming a lot of people are feeling that way and saying it to him too. So it is like a universal feeling right now among a lot of people who root for him, because it's like they're excited that he's in this position, but they feel like you can kind of tell where it's going. And that is not exciting. It's getting people to not want to watch or like not check in because they feel like he deserves better than being in that spot. So
I'm
I
too
don't know.
positive.
It's,
I'm either too
but
positive or
I get wanting to be positive, and that's fine. I just also think that you need to like look at how they've proven you wrong in this situation multiple times. When it comes to LA Knight, I mean. Jay says this is exactly what they did to Rhodes years when they made Roman and Brock beat him. I think that it could be okay. I think that if Cody wins this year, then I think that's fine. But Cody's also in a different position than LA Knight. And that's because Cody has been in WWE before. We know his story. He went and built another wrestling company, became a huge name because of all the stuff he did in the indies. And his first match back in WWE was against Seth Rollins, who is a top guy in the company. He gets a match at Roman at WrestleMania, which was his first WrestleMania main event ever. And so, like, I think it's a different situation where they could wait at Cody. I get feeling this way, and I will still feel this way if Cody does not become champion this year. I will be right there with you. But otherwise, I think it's okay. I think it's different with LA Knight because he's not an established guy the same way.
Denisha, my girl.
Maybe I'm saying maybe.
Here we go,
But
Denisha.
I'm just telling you.
Fist bump.
But this is the thing is like my thing is they have mishandled LA Knight. So
They have.
So that's what I'm saying.
It's
So
okay.
then to sit there and believe that they're not going to mishandle him from this situation is you're living in denial.
I'm not living in denial.
But you're being overly optimistic when they've proven that you shouldn't be, is what I'm saying. I'm saying you can be optimistic because that's the mindset you have. I try to be realistic, and I tend to be negative. I'm pessimistic. I understand that. But I also feel like I'm proven right when it comes to wrestling a lot more often because I can just predict these things. And I feel like when we're talking about these four guys in this match, he's going to get the short end of the stick because he's not on their level yet. So that's why I'm saying, like, Randy is not concerned. If Randy doesn't become champion, who the fuck cares? He's going to have a Mania match.
Yeah.
Same thing with AJ Styles and obviously Roman Reigns. But LA Knight hasn't even had a WrestleMania match. Even though he was super over last year, they didn't give a shit. They had him sit there and be shown in the audience. How can I sit here and say that he's going to have this big main event match at the Royal Rumble, that they're not going to make him look like the weakest one in the match for the most part, especially by pinning him? And then I'm supposed to believe that they might do right by him by either keeping him involved in this or giving him the like lesser of the titles on the show is treating him right. Like, how do I even know that he's going to get a match at Mania? They didn't give him one last year, despite the fact that he was super over. So that's what I'm saying. It's like his his outlook is more checkered to me. I don't think that it's black and white. It's not like the others where you don't have to worry about them. When it comes to LA Knight, I think you do.
All right.
I'm very passionate about this.
You are. I could go on too. That's a good way to end the show. Let's do
Royal Rumble. The male Royal Rumble winner is going to be CM Punk, I think.
Yeah, from legit unbiased, I think it's CM Punk. For my favorite, who I want to win, I want Sami Zayn.
I would want Drew McIntyre. Or Gunther, but that's because I would love for Gunther just be like, fuck the US title or IC title. I'm going for the title. I honestly, I don't want it to be Cody because I want there to be a different path for him to get to Roman. And I don't even want it to be Punk because I feel like that's so predictable. Like everybody was saying that Cody winning the Rumble last year was predictable. This shit's predictable. He's all like, I've never won the Royal Rumble. I've never main evented WrestleMania. So we're going to do that again 2 years in a row. Cody had the same argument and now we're going to do that. Like, I just think that's stupid. But unless something drastically changes, which I think that, Drew McIntyre could be somebody that's thrown in there. And I also think that Sami Zayn is a guy that could be thrown into the mix as well. But unless we see any sort of inkling of that on the next 2 episodes of Raw before the Rumble, I feel like there's no reason to believe it's not CM Punk. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of feel that way too. Hoping it's one person, but being okay with settling. It's just...
I mean, if it's going to be CM Punk, like I said, there are a few ways that they can handle Cody and Drew and whatever, I guess, that will make me okay. I just also don't like, I think my biggest concern is Drew because I feel like he's in such a good spot right now that I feel like he cannot be one of the forgotten people heading into WrestleMania. Like, you can't do that with him right now. So that's why I'm like concerned that if it's not him and it's not Cody, there's going to be a lot of focus on Cody getting to Roman, obviously, but like, where does that leave Drew?
Agreed with that.
So that was Raw or SmackDown.
That was SmackDown, and we got Raw on Monday. Big show. I am excited to talk about that on Tuesday, when we will be back for the Raw Rewind Tuesday 6. Be there or be square. In the meantime, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit that bell notification too to know when we post, not only go live, but post our videos that Sara unbelievably cuts up for you so we can boost those numbers up. All right.
We're at the 1455.
1455. I said I wanted to get 1450 before the holiday. That's in my love. 1455. So maybe before Rumble in 2 weeks, we could get to 15. You know, we may even go live during some the Rumble. I think we still have to talk about that, but I know you peeps have been wanting us to, go live and do live reactions during the pay-per-view, and what a better pay-per-view to do that at, because we can't do it for Mania for the Royal Rumble. So that's why you got to follow us on all the social media platforms and all those accounts down below. Go check those out and
tell your friends also.
Tell your friends.
I wish that we could offer some sort of like recruiting or reference.
Yeah.
Something, but just know that you'll have our admiration and love forever.
We'll pay it forward one day. All right. The goal, like my mind works. We're gonna repay the peeps at some point when we can.
We'll have we'll have like a giveaway or something at some point.
We should do some sort of giveaway. I really want to do something like that because you guys have been awesome in supporting us, and I mean, and it's part of my favorite part of the day or week, whatever, when Sara and I hop in here and talk wrestling, because it's the thing I would say I love most in life, besides Boston sports. So we really appreciate all the support and love that you guys give us, and we'll be back on Tuesday to talk about Jinder Mahal winning the World Heavyweight Championship. I am excited. You should be too. And in the meantime, have a great rest of your holiday weekend. God bless. And remember that you can do it. All you got to do is try. See you on Tuesday. Yeah. Go Pack, go.